Okay, guys, so let's get started. Our interviewee is here. And welcome, Gabriel Sousa, to our I.T.A.L.K project, the international talk about language knowledge. We are very pleased to have you here. And we have a list of 10 students who want to ask you a question. So we will start with a small introduction. Can you please introduce yourself shortly for us? Your microphone is off.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, now it's good.
You can hear me now? Great. Well, thank you for having me. It's good to be here. I guess it's good morning for me, but it's about to be good afternoon, I guess, for you guys there in my home country of Brazil. My name is Gabriel Sousa, as I say it here, although at home in Florida, where my parents are now, they would say Gabriel Sousa. And thank you guys for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here to talk with you guys and to share a little bit about my trajectory and my career here in Hollywood. So I guess I'll keep talking. Um, I was actually born in Brazil, but I moved to the United States when I was 2 years old. Um, my parents had a job prospect, and we had an opportunity to kind of build a new life in South Florida in a city called Fort Lauderdale. And since then, Fort Lauderdale has grown a lot with a big influx of Brazilian immigrants, and there's now a wonderful community there. And it was very interesting for me to see that happen throughout my life. I actually moved back to Goiânia when I was 7 years old, and I lived there for 4 years, which is why I'm still able to speak Portuguese and play soccer and have some real connection and understanding of Brazilian culture as well.
Okay, so our first question comes from Ana Sofia.
Hi, Anna.
Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's real nice. And my question is, what is necessary to enter in the movie industry world? And is there any shortcuts that you can talk a little bit? I mean, if it's hard, if it's easy, I mean, how is your experience so far?
Well, having any kind of participation in Hollywood takes definitely a lot of work, and no matter which field you are trying to be in or to attack, it certainly takes a lot of patience and a little bit of luck too. I would say that I can only mostly speak from the position of acting and also producing, which is something that I've done to a degree as well. But like anything else, it starts with a desire, right? You have to really want it, because when years go by and you haven't become an A-list celebrity, or you haven't worked on a big, Hollywood movie with a huge multi-million-dollar budget yet, it starts to test you a little bit more. So I would say the very first thing that you have to have in place is a real desire. I think the people that come here to Los Angeles and to Hollywood and have just this small notion or desire of fame or money, I think those are the first people that start to kind of break away and start to have a hard time with it, because it is very trying and it's very testing. And I think the people that I see doing the best and thriving in Hollywood are the ones that really love the seventh art, really love what it is to create cinema, to be storytellers. As far as shortcuts, it's kind of like anything in life. I spend a lot of time considering the differences between being an actor and what other jobs are like, as far as their structures, as far as the prospect of getting new work, as far as career and promotion. And there's certainly a lot of similarities, but there are certainly a lot of things that are very different too, which are kind of part of the things that make you know, Hollywood's so amazing. One thing I always tell myself and share with fellow actors here in Hollywood is something I actually picked up from Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad. I heard him say once that auditioning, that's the job, right? Auditioning is the part that requires work, because you know, I'm here in my home studio where I record auditions, and now with the pandemic, all the auditions are mostly, you know, you film them at home, and then they're selecting from the tape, and then of course when there's bigger roles, they'll call you into the studio for, you know, for a live audition when they've narrowed it down to 3 people or 5 people or so. But you know, you're sitting here and you're in your home and you're doing a tape, and you have no stimulation, right? You have no you don't have another actor to do the scene with. You're not in wardrobe. You don't have props. You don't have an entire set, you know, created to feed this suspended disbelief and the illusion of the story. So you have to use your imagination, and sometimes that feels strange. And it's like, is this really it? So for actors, auditioning is kind of a big part of the job. And then when you actually book the job and you actually get to live the role, Bryan Cranston says, well, that's paid vacation, right? Because you're getting money to do something that you love. So I would say it always comes back to that serious desire, because it'll be tested. But for me, I'm an incredibly studious person, and having done this now professionally for, wow, going on 10 years, you know, I still I love it even more than I did the first day, because now I feel like I'm a part of it. I feel like I'm, you know, really kind of making my way on the inside, and all the things that I used to dream about are materializing and happening around me. So I remain studious. I'm always studying the craft of acting. I'm always watching everything that I can see that people like. And sometimes I even watch things that people say they don't like, because I try to understand. Like if somebody tells me they have a favorite actor, or they say, hey, there's this one big actor, I don't like him. I try to say, well, how does this person not how does this person not feel any truth from, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio, for example? So I had I had a big discussion one time with a friend, and she's a director, she's Brazilian also. And she was telling me, yeah, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is okay. And I'm like, how can you think he's okay? And we have this long conversation. I'm like, he's fantastic. And then I tried to watch one of his movies through her eyes, and see if I could understand something from a different perspective. So yeah, I guess, you know, there's no practical answer I could give you, because everything depends on each individual person's journey and path. But I would say the combination of a serious burning desire and a practical, methodical approach to how you can just get to the next level. It's definitely a one step at a time kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You got it.
Okay, our next question comes from Isabella.
Hello.
Hi, Isabella.
Hi. You are a successful actor who has already achieved incredible things. In the future, do you intend to keep acting, or maybe one day be a film director?
You know, that's something that I think about a lot, but to me, you know, I 10 years into it, and I still feel like I'm just getting started, because my career has really started to blossom over the last 3 years, and I finally see myself on the kind of trajectory that is going to enable me to reach my biggest goals as an actor first. And you know, I work with a lot of fantastic directors, and I observe their process a lot, and I think I will want to do that one day, but it's no time soon. And that's because I really respect every department of the filmmaking aspect, right? I really respect screenwriters. I really respect art directors. I really respect directors and wardrobe stylists, and everybody that feeds this art. So it's something that I want to do, because I think, you know, I look at things from such a encompassing perspective. You know, I sometimes have my own creative opinions about how a scene should be shot and how a story should go. So I definitely will do that eventually. But for now, gosh, it feels so good to be in the position that I'm in now, that I'm still so curious about all the possibilities as an actor. One thing that I have done is produce, and I think producing is a little bit less. Um, it's almost right in the middle of being creative and being technical with storytelling and with filmmaking. But producing is something that I've done for a couple short films, and that's something that I really like, because you know, you really kind of help to make the story happen, and you kind of get to pick which projects you really want to, you know, put your stress into.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next question comes from Acelina.
Hi, nice to
Hi,
meet
Selena.
you.
Nice to meet you too.
So, I saw the advertisement that you did for an English company here in Brazil, where you work with Megan Fox and Michael Tyson.
Yeah.
And it was really funny. You pretending that you didn't know how to speak in English.
And look
It
at
was
me.
really funny. Yeah. And I want to know, how did you feel about this experience, this big opportunity that you had to work with two big artists, and tell us about it.
I have to tell you that first of all, I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. And it's not so much that that gave me, you know, a path and an open door, but it just inspired me so much. The CCAA experience was one of the most fundamental turning points in my life, and it was incredible. When I got the very first advertisement, the very first marketing campaign was with Bruce Willis, and at that point, all my acting experience had been on stage doing theater plays. So I had never done any acting on camera before. So I get this amazing job, and I think that when I went for this audition with the first one, I had no idea how big and amazing this would be. And that ignorance was probably good, because I didn't have any nerves. I was like, this is such a hilarious and funny script that I just have to play and I just have to show up. So I go and I do it, and then I get the job, and they're like, okay, you're gonna, you know, fly to Los Angeles. I was in Miami at the time. You're gonna fly to Los Angeles, and you know, you're gonna work with Bruce Willis. And that's when I was like, wow. And it just, you know, hit me. So amazingly, the first time that I ever did any acting on camera was with Bruce Willis. And that was an incredible experience. When that happened, I was transformed. I couldn't believe people get to do this for a living. And then when the second commercial came around, and I got to work with Megan Fox and Mike Tyson, who were both absolutely wonderful. They were entertaining and funny and playful, and we all had such a great time shooting that story, which is such a funny concept, right? Me and the other kid, Luis, we get stranded on this beach, and we're in paradise, and if only we could speak English, we could have had a great life. But no, we get cast away and thrown onto Mike Tyson Island. That experience was absolutely fundamental, because it made me believe that I could do this. It made me believe that I had something to share as far as the human experience, right? Because, you know, acting is simultaneously a simple thing and a complicated thing. It's both incredibly easy and also incredibly complex. And in that situation, the writing was so good and the situation was so funny that you just have to let go of anything and just be a human being. And I think it was easy to do my job that day, because, well, if Megan Fox is in front of you, it's pretty easy to be like, wow, you know? So, and if Mike Tyson's in front of you looking all scary, it's pretty easy to be pretty scared of him too. So the experiences with that campaign was fundamental to me in my career, because it gave me a taste of doing things at an A-list big time level. And it would take many years of hard work before I got to be on that kind of quality of set, you know. So I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity, and that's really how it all started for me. It really is. So that was one of the most special and fundamental moments of my life and career.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next question comes from Juliana.
So, hi, and
Yeah.
hi. First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity that I'm sorry. I would like to thank for the opportunity that to talk to you. Because when I found out that you acted in Agents of Shield, I got really excited because man, I love that. And congratulations is a big thing. And I want to know how was the experience of work with the guys in there, the cast? Are the people cool? And did you got any friend in there? Are you friend with any of them? Please.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. You know, I'm at the end of the day, you know, when I look in the mirror every night, I'm still a little kid from Goiás, and I never take for granted how lucky I've been to get to this place and to be able to do something like Agents of Shield. So when I mentioned that, you know, since CCAA, there was a lot of hard work and a lot of smaller, gritty jobs before I got to something big. When I filmed Agents of Shield last year, that was one of those moments where I felt like I finally, you know, got to the mountaintop again. I'll start with how I got that test, because it was very interesting. I was already doing some work on TV, on American TV. I had already, you know, worked a couple great jobs on a couple of TV shows, like this TV show that was on ABC called The Fix. I did this show on Hulu called Veronica Mars with Kristen Bell, and that's another wonderful, wonderful experience too. So I wasn't nervous about the prospect of working on, you know, a Marvel TV show. There was no nerves about it. And I think one thing that really helped me with that test was 2 weeks before that test, I had the chance to be a very big character on Supergirl, which is a show on CW, but that's the DC universe. But I didn't get it, and I remember feeling like really disheartened, and I was you know, just in one of those moments where, like, man, I really wanted this one. This would have changed my life. So when I got this audition, this test for Agents of Shield, I remember being like, probably not going to get it anyway. Let's just do it. So I did it without letting myself get too excited about it. And I think I mentioned that because I think it helped. I think it helped because I was detached from any expectations. I didn't think it was really possible. And I remember when I went to that test at the casting office of Sarah Finn, who does the casting for all the Marvel movies. It's really amazing when you go into this, you know, office for an audition for an acting test, because, you know, you sign in and then you walk in and you look around the waiting room. There's like Thor, and it's signed by Chris Hemsworth and the director, and it says, "Thank you, Sarah, for, you know, helping us build such a great team." You're like, wow. And then there's an Avengers poster, and everybody has autographed it from the movie, and you're like, this is where it happens. This is where it happens. And but still, I didn't let that in. I was determined to show up that day with like what we call a devil may care attitude, which was like, this isn't going to happen, but you know what? I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to show them how good I would have been, you know? And I remember in the test, it was one of those experiences, very much like my CCAA test, the first one, where you're in a room with a camera pointed at you and, you know, two casting professionals reading a piece of paper with you, but it all disappeared. I was transported into the situation purely in my imagination. And, you know, a lot of actors like to say that you have access to that all the time, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're very aware that that you're playing pretend. Sometimes you're very aware that there's not really a monster or a spaceship. But I think everything that you do and every book I read on acting and every technique that there is on acting, everything is just trying to help you let go and use your imagination. And I remember on that test for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I was completely transported to the situation. It wasn't about, I'm going to be the right person for this job. I'm a good actor. It was about none of that. It was, I'm in this situation and it's real to me. And I remember feeling great about it. It was one take and they said, wow, okay, that was great. Thank you. I said, thank you. And I left. And when I left, that's when I was like, wow, that was really cool. I just did an audition for a Marvel TV show. Wow, that would be amazing. Probably not going to happen. And then I just drove home. And then the next day, I get, you know, one of the best phone calls of my life from my agent, who is a very fundamental person for an actor to have in Hollywood. It's only when you get a good agent that you can begin to get these kinds of tests. So for anybody that's curious about acting or how someone even gets to be on a Marvel TV show, it starts with that relationship with a Hollywood agent who will represent you and who knows casting professionals and has a established connection with the casting office that does that TV show and says, hey, I have this actor. He's a good fit for this role that you guys are casting. You know, what do you guys think? And they see your materials. So presumably on the other side of the table, they had seen my photo, they had seen my resume, and maybe even watched some of my demo reel, show reel. And we're like, okay, this is a good guy. Let's see him. And they pick very few people to come see personally every role. Nowadays with the pandemic, I imagine they see a lot of tapes and even less people in person because of, you know, limiting the interactions. So I'll never forget, you know, when I got that phone call, I remember exactly where I was in my living room. And the first thing I did when I hung up with her was, well, I think I cried, but I like laid down on the floor and looked at the sky and thanked God in Portuguese. Actually, it's funny when I have these like deep, compelling spiritual moments, I almost always like pray and speak in Portuguese. I guess that's because of how I was raised. So, you know, fast forward a couple weeks later, you know, I'm exchanging all these amazing emails with Marvel saying, here's what's going to happen. Here's how it's going to go. You're going to do this one stunt and there's going to be this person. But from the very first day on that set, I had a wonderful time with everyone. Everybody on that cast, everybody is so nice. From Phil Coulson to Daisy Quake and Fitz and Simmons and everybody that I got to work with, everybody was awesome. They're super, super cool. The friendships that I really made were with the other, you know, bad guys. Actually, a friendship that I really made on that set was with James Paxton, who plays the Garrett character. He actually played a role that his father, the great actor Bill Paxton, who was in Titanic and Twister, his father had originated this role on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And for the 7th season, he took over that role. And we had a great time for a few weeks, and we still talk to this day. And it was a real like friendship that you make. And it's funny because it's such a big world out there, and Hollywood is big. But the more I stay into it, the more it starts to like circle and get smaller, and you start to see people again. But yeah, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was the most awe-inspiring dream realizing experience that I've had in a long time, because that one was really, really special for me. I was a kid who grew up watching X-Men and Spider-Man, and that one will always be so special to me. It's still one that I look back on. I have a bunch of little things that I have from set. I have a script from the episode that's signed by everybody on the cast. It's really cool. Actually, I think I have it close by. I'll show you if anybody's curious. And that one is the one that I'm still like, I can't believe I got to do this. I had a superpower.
Cool.
Yeah, congratulations. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question comes from Larissa.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Larissa.
It's amazing how hardworking you are. Well, my question is, how long does it take and how hard it is to consolidate a career as an artist?
So it's kind of I like that question a lot, Larissa. It's a very evolving thing, right? Because in being such a student of this particular game, I've seen a lot of different paths. Every time I see a new actor that I see start to have some success, I look up his filmography and I say, how did this actor get to this role? Wow, he's in a movie with Tom Cruise, and I just saw him on a TV show, and nobody knows him yet, but who is this guy? And I look at the path that he took. So in studying dozens of different actors' careers before me, I've seen some patterns, and then sometimes I've seen some people where I can't believe how quickly it happened for them. I have two different stories for you, and they're real stories that I've actually confirmed with different sources that this is really how it happened. The first one I'll tell is about Mark Ruffalo, who plays the Hulk in the Avengers. So I had a meeting once with a Hollywood talent manager, a manager who worked with Mark early in his career. And there's this rumor that Mark said in an interview once that he went on over 600 auditions, tests, without getting any roles, without winning at all. 600. So I've thought about this number a lot, because I probably go on 2 or 3 auditions a week when it's pretty busy. And even with 2 or 3 a week, because it's not busy every single month of the year. December's a little bit slow. January's a little bit slow. There are kind of months that are slower. When I did the numbers, I'm like, it would take something like 3 years to go on 600 auditions. So you're talking about Mark Ruffalo for 3 years, auditioning a lot, going on lots of tests, and never getting one. So that takes a lot of courage and belief in yourself to say, those weren't right for me, but I'm going to keep working and I'm going to keep making this happen. And sure enough, eventually, it did. And I remember watching an interview where he gets asked about that. And one of the casting directors in Hollywood is like, gosh, you're so good. Where have you been? And he's like, I've been here. You guys have never wanted me before. And then now everybody appreciates his talent. So that's a story that I keep very close to me, because it keeps me humble and it shows, how long it can take. Now, 600 auditions in 3 years is actually a great number. That means he was going on a lot of them. And that's not to say that after that, he was an immediate success. It took that long for him to get one. And then, you get a small role, and then people trust you with that level of role. And then you get another role that's a little bit bigger and a bigger part of the story. And now they trust you with a little bit more. So it can happen in various ways. Another career that I look at a lot is Bryan Cranston, because Bryan Cranston started working in TV when he was like 27 or 28. But nobody really discovered who this guy was as an actor and an artist I would say until Breaking Bad, when he was in his late 40s, I think. So for Bryan Cranston in his particular path, you're talking about 20 years of building smaller roles. Now, somewhere I think in his 30s, he got a really good role on a TV show called The Middle. And so on a financial and recognition level, well, he was doing TV. But again, it depends on where you're coming from. You know, is it does a person want to be just a working actor, or do you want to be somebody who has that fame thing? And you know, fame is not something that I covet, but it's something that is worth cachet as an actor. You know, the reason why Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt can pick their roles is because they have an appeal to their name. You know, a studio says, hey, if Brad Pitt's in our movie, a certain amount of people are bound to show up. And so it's good for the cachet of being able to pick your project. So for Bryan Cranston, you know, you're talking about 20 years of TV work and smaller projects until the right role at the right time. And now, you know, now all of us can look back at this amazing series, Breaking Bad, and say, this guy gave us something really special. So, you know, 600 auditions for Mark Ruffalo, 20 years for Bryan Cranston to really become this guy that we all appreciate and see. And then the other story that I have is this actor, his name is Garrett Hedlund. He's done a bunch of movies like Tron and what else? There's a bunch, but the point of his story for me, it's so fascinating because he's from, I think it was Oklahoma, and he moves to Hollywood. And 4 months after moving to Hollywood, Garrett Hedlund gets the role of Patroclus in Troy, playing Brad Pitt's cousin. So Brad Pitt in the movie, right? Brad Pitt is Achilles in the movie. And Garrett Hedlund gets the role of Patroclus, Achilles' cousin. And it's a good role. If you guys have seen the movie, you know how important his role ends up being to the story because it makes Achilles set on fire. And that was 4 months after moving to LA. So guy moves to LA, gets to be Brad Pitt's cousin in a movie, and his career just takes off from there. So that's what's incredible, but also frustrating about it is how there's no timetable. You know, I know a lot of actors that have incredible training, that are incredibly talented, and haven't had one TV role or movie role yet at all. And when I say TV and movie, I mean, you know, the kind of TV you can watch on streaming or watch live, and the kind of movies that you go see in the movie theater. Because the real heartbeat of Hollywood, and for all these artists that are trying to come up and trying to get some recognition and make a name for themselves, is what I would call the indie world, right? Independent film and TV, which is, you know, the short films that I have produced and that I've been in myself. You know, those were indie because they didn't have a streaming platform that they were already married to. It was like I had to create the thing. I had to invest in the project myself. And then after filming it, say, hey, does anybody want to show this on their network, you know? So the indie spirit is really the lifeblood of Hollywood, where a lot of actors are doing great work that honestly very few people are seeing. In the indie avenue, you know, what you really want to do mostly, and this can happen in different ways, but you want to create something really special. You want to tell an amazing story. You want to get it made professionally and shot well and have it be a quality experience. And then you want to maybe get it into Sundance or the Cannes Film Festival or Telluride or Rotterdam or, you know, Venice. These are the places, these film festivals are the places where an indie self-invested, you know, short film or feature film can get the kind of attention that can move your career forward.
Cool.
Okay. No short answers there.
Giovanna, you're up next.
Hi, it's really nice to meet you, Gabriel. And I wanna ask, what is a day of a Hollywood actor like? What kind of things you need to do?
Okay. Hi, Giovanna. So I would say, on average, a day is something like, I wake up early and I still take a look every day at these things called casting breakdowns. So there are a couple avenues for actors where there's like a job board, where you can see roles that they're looking for, and of course you can refine the search based on your type. So for example, I have my search in the system for male somewhere between 20 and 35. And that's pretty much it. I don't try to qualify too much because everything else is what you can bring, right? Bad guy, good guy, nerd, jock, hero, villain, all these things depend. So I don't try to qualify that. But I always keep an eye on that because I always want to see what's happening out there. And that's mostly for the indie projects that I speak of, right? These independent productions. Because when it comes to auditions like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or Veronica Mars or 68 Whiskey, those you can't see. Those come from agents, and only the agents know that's what they're looking for. Because as you can imagine, if Marvel was like, hey, we're looking for somebody to play the superhero, 2 million people would submit, and they would need 9 months to go through everyone. So it's a very kind of staged, tiered process. But still, so I basically, obviously the first thing I do is like, do I have any auditions from my agents? Because that's really where the juicy, great stuff comes from. But I still keep an eye on the independent stuff because I like to stay active. And sometimes, for an actor, at least at my level, it's like I can be on a TV show, but I haven't quite gotten to the level where I can carry the story as far as their trust. I think I can. But as far as their trust, a TV show and a network has yet to say, yeah, this guy right here can be our lead, our main guy. And what happens is they always look at your resume and they'll always give you a chance at something close to what you've done before. It's a very almost, how would I say, it's like qualified process where it's super rare for you to have done a small role on TV and then be the lead on a TV show. The real pattern is more like, first you're the bartender, and then you're the friend of the lead, and then you're the friend of the lead, and then you know what I mean? You have to kind of earn that. And that's not really a talent thing. That's more of like a trust thing. It's almost like the industry begins to trust you based on your resume, and I think that's one of those things where that's true in life too. Every person who graduates college with a degree, whether it's psychology or law or marketing, the first thing that happens is you got your degree, which means you have your training, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I want to go to the job market and see what's out there. And then all of a sudden, well, everybody wants experience. Well, how do I get experience if nobody wants to hire me because I don't have experience? And I think this is something we call a catch-22, where it's like, how are you supposed to get the experience if nobody trusts you to give you the experience? And that's very true in Hollywood as well, where, they'll trust you with a little bit more than they've seen you do already. Sometimes somebody will take a big chance on you, and that's what we all hope for. People that will say, hey, there's something here, and I believe in you. But yeah, so basically my point is this. I keep an eye on the independent productions because with my resume, the things that I've done, I've been the lead in feature films, which is like a regular length movie, and I've been the lead in many short films. So in the independent world, I have all the trust that you could want. A project of any scope and any size will say, hey, this is an actor we can trust to carry our story. So in that world, I have more possibilities. Whereas as it stands right now with TV, I can be on multiple episodes. I can, you know, carry my part of the story, but I'm still waiting for that chance for somebody to say, hey, this guy can be, you know, a series regular on our series, you know? So yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, and then there are, of course, the other elements, right? Whereas as much as I'm obsessed and I love this stuff, it's like you just have to be a human being, you know? So exercising, eating well, keeping my instrument, right? As an actor, your body is your instrument, because the song you're playing is the song of humanity. It's like I said earlier, sometimes it's incredibly simple. You just have to believe the situation around you. But I think that to have access to the breadth of human experience, I have to keep myself open. So, you know, spiritual and meditative things are really important to me on a daily basis, because they keep me grounded. They keep me grounded in what it is to be a human being, what it is to be alive. And I think that that's something that I can't ever, you know, lose touch with. And by lose touch, I just mean, you know, I'm constantly aware of the fact that I'm lucky to be able to do this for a living, but I know what it's like to live a regular life with a regular job. And I think that'll keep me in touch with, you know, the most basic and common experience of every person in the world today, which is, you know, you're just trying to make a living, be happy, feed your family, and, you know, hopefully have some relationships and great experiences. So I try to keep myself, you know, available to that every day by reading a lot, by exercising a lot, and you know, kind of keeping myself just sharp, right? It's like keeping the instrument in tune, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Wildly different day to day.
Cool. Now the next question comes from Mario.
Hello, Gabriel.
Hey,
My
Mario.
name is Mario. I'm 17 years old, and I want to ask you something. Like, I don't know how it works outside of Brazil, but here, my dream is to be a voice actor. You know, so here in Brazil, we need to be actor first. You know, and then after being actor, you need to do the test to be voice actor. But I'm a little bit shy. I'm very shy to be real. And do you know how can I lead with this?
So I've actually done a lot of voice acting, Mario. One of my main jobs that I got after being in LA for 3 years, I got a job with a studio doing voice dubbing, right? Dublagem. So I was able to get a lot of experience. I've probably done 300 episodes of soap operas with voice dubbing. And through that studio, I was given the amazing opportunity of being able to do the voice for a character in a video game. I am the voice of Zhao Yun, which is one of the main characters in the game Dynasty Warriors 9. It's on PlayStation and Xbox, so it's a big game. And that was an incredible experience, because unlike the voice dubbing where you have to follow another actor's, you know, style and energy, for this video game character, I could create, you know, a little bit more. So I've had some good experience with voice acting here in LA, and as far as I can tell, they don't require that you have any kind of training or credits as an actor to do the voice acting. They'll trust that maybe, you know, you're just a voice actor and you don't want to be on camera doing the traditional kind of acting. So at least from what I've seen here, and I know a lot of successful and working voice actors, they don't need you to be an actor first. They'll just trust your resume. It's kind of the thing I was mentioning before, where, you know, you got to get the smallest of jobs first and do something, so that then they'll say, okay, well, at least at this level, we can trust this voice actor. So I think, you know, being shy is kind of part of the human experience too, right? But I think that it's something to be aware of, because, you know, when it's time for action, your shyness will come through in the voice. Now, that might be good for the character. So there are things to be aware of. For example, if this shyness is something that is part of your energy, then a lot of characters are going to have that. A lot of characters are going to need that. So it's not something to be worried about necessarily. But, you know, that being said, of course, you have to kind of just concentrate at one point and say, okay, I'm ready to do this thing. The best way to kind of get into that, I would say, is to find what kind of voice acting you really love to do, whether it's animation or dubbing. And with, you know, apps today like TikTok and stuff, you can actually play in that world a little bit. Now, it's not the professional paid world necessarily, but if you at least start to explore that, you'll get some experience on how it works. You know, you'll put it out there and people on the internet will laugh at you, and then you'll grow from it. And maybe, you know, maybe even one of the videos will get more recognition when people say, this is a great, you know, this is a great dub. It's hilarious. Wow, what a good voice. Or maybe in one video you do 3 different voices and people, you know, somebody says, wow, look, this guy can do 3 things. But in Brazil, from what I understand, the best kind of voice jobs come from going to these like dubbing and voice acting like schools. They'll do like a course where, you know, they kind of show you the basics of it, and then they themselves do some internal casting. So I think one of them is called Do Brasil, where like they do a lot of the voice dubbing for like American TV shows and series. And they have their little course and their little, you know, kind of school where they'll certify you and teach you. And it's a place where you can continue exploring too. I think the most important thing with all of, you know, filmmaking and acting, whether it's voice acting or screen acting, is trying to just do it at whatever level you can, and then proving to yourself that you're worth taking the next step, that you've earned the right for the next thing, right? Because it's easy to walk into Hollywood and say, I want to be a movie actor and I want to be in movies like Citizen Kane and I want to be the lead. And then, you know, the world will say, okay, well, prove it. And then you're going to be like, well, wait a minute, you give me the role and then I'll prove it. They're going to be like, we don't know you. How about you prove it and then we give you the role? So I think you got to take this leap of faith, and the leap of faith is saying, it doesn't matter where I'm at, I'm going to do this in one way or another. So I guess, you know, for you, Mario, I'm going to assume that you're starting in it now because you're so young and you have your life ahead of you. I didn't even start doing this till I was 23, at least, you know, on camera, but I had done a lot of theater. But the point is, you know, do it on TikTok. Do it on TikTok. Try to do some dubbing, right? Because I think actually voice dubbing is great for a voice actor, because if you're able to follow another actor's voice in English and then do it in Portuguese or whatever, and it sounds good and it matches, well, now you've kind of matched a performance, and then you'll start to have your own instincts, which is, I think it would have been funny if he would have said this sentence like this, and then you try that, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But the experimenting and the, you know, kind of putting yourself out there and just doing it at whatever level, that to me is what's fundamental about growth and about getting somewhere.
Cool.
Thanks, Gabriel.
You got it.
Okay, now Lucas Araújo, you're up next. Lucas.
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I wanted to say that it's a pleasure to have you here, Gabriel. And my question is, what is the coolest part of being an actor?
Oof. Thank you for having me, Lucas. Gosh, you guys all have such great questions and speak phenomenal English. Well, gosh, the coolest part. I think the coolest part really is doing it on the big set where you're working with people at the highest level, right? It's fun to do it on any level and on any stage. But man, when you get the chance, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they say there's somebody who's at the top of their craft, at the top of their particular expertise and art level, and they're working on your wardrobe, And then you have the best camera guys making you look amazing because they're working with the best lighting guys who make the stage and the set look amazing. And then this moment, and this is my answer right here, this moment in between action and cut, where the set goes silent, and even though these guys have been doing this for years, on every set that I've ever been on, when the director yells action, everybody just says, let's see some magic. And they say it silently, and they say it with their eyes. And you're given this freedom, this creative freedom to live a real life, hopefully an authentic life under these imaginary circumstances. And that space between action and cut, to me, is what it's all about. Now, you're saying, what's the best part? The best part is when, before there's action, you have had all these top level professionals and artists in their own right help tell the story. Because to me, you know, actors, we can take a lot of credit sometimes, but all the best stuff that you see, it is an absolute village, you know? Even if you're watching Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street and he's by himself in the frame, you got to remember, on the other side of the camera, there's 62 people watching, hoping that this is one of those magic takes, and they're just wanting to be entertained and wanting to believe, you know, the story. And whether you're Gabriel Sousa or Leonardo DiCaprio, when the director yells action, people want to believe. And I think that bit of faith that they give us, and that freedom that we have to create something, that's the most special part of it, for real.
Cool. Okay, now the next question comes from Wendell.
Good morning.
All right, thank you.
Nice to meet you. My name is Wendell, and my question is, have you always dreamed of being an actor?
Hi, Wendell. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon to you. I have, you know, I remember my first experience in life with saying, that's what I want to do, was watching Tom Cruise in Top Gun, the movie where he's the fighter pilot. And that movie was so awesome. I used to watch it when I was 7 years old, living in Goiânia, over and over. It would finish and I would start it again. And it was Top Gun and Grease. Those were the two movies that I used to watch. Grease is with John Travolta. And those two movies, for whatever reason, were it for me. I wanted to be, right, not as an actor, as like a person. I wanted to be somewhere between Maverick and Danny Zuko, and that was the way for me. But what I realized later on is I wanted to have this kind of experience, right? In Top Gun, he flies a fighter jet, he drives a motorcycle, he gets the girl, and there's all the thrill in between. So when I got a little bit older, I would say when I was like 12 or 13 and started to do theater, what I realized is the actor gets to live many lives throughout a career. And nothing could be more interesting or more fascinating to me than being able to continually explore what it means to be human. You know, sometimes it's not as simple as you think. For example, when I'm given the role of a villain, you know, it's not like, let's be the bad guy and I want to watch the world burn. You have to find some truth in there. You have to come from something authentic. You know, for example, when you watch Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight as the Joker, he wasn't thinking, okay, I'm going to make a funny movement with my mouth and I'm going to say my lines like this. He had to create something internally that made sense to him, that made sense to that character, and that justified his behavior. So when you have this experience of trying to understand a character from so many different perspectives without judging if they're good or bad people, you start to understand what it means to be human, I think, a little bit more. And you start to understand that everybody is coming from their own perspective, and there's no right or wrong. There's only objectively good and bad people, but that decision is made from the outside. I don't think people decide from the inside, I'm going to be a villain in this world or in this life. Something traumatic happens to a person and they just lose empathy, or they lose a sense of caring for other people, and that might be a villainous trait, but they themselves aren't thinking, I'm the villain. In everybody's story, they're the good guy.
Cool.
Thank
One
you.
more question to go. Acelina, please do the honors.
So, my last question, I promise. How to deal with the exposure?
Well, that one is still, evolving for me. I think about that question a lot, because I think about, if I get to do this at whatever level I want, how much exposure do I really want? Would I really want to be like Brad Pitt, who can't go to the grocery store because people will stop him? Or would I want to be like some of the actors that I know that maybe some people recognize, I think I know him from a thing, but maybe can still go out in the world and function and go to a grocery store and go to the park with their kids and things like that. So luckily for me, that's not something that I get to choose, right? The industry, the audience, and people will make that decision for me. So as it stands now, I just want to be a working actor. If I can keep doing this for a living, and be able to take care of myself and my family with it, then that's really all I want. I don't need any more fame. Now, do I want that? Only because it helps me further my own dreams as an actor, not because I like the exposure by itself. For example, like on Instagram, sometimes I think that if I had 1 million followers, it would help with certain jobs, because they'd say, wow, look at this, he already has 1 million followers. If we put him on our TV show, that's 1 million people that are going to watch it that we might, but I'm not an influencer. I'm not a YouTuber. That's not my path. So I can't post on Instagram wanting followers and fame. I do what I do, and I do it from the heart. And if the recognition and the fame comes from it, then it was meant to be, and I will serve that with gratitude. But otherwise, I just want to be a working actor, and if I can, do that and live my life and go to the grocery store and nobody knows who I am, I'm okay with that. But if it gets to the point where, my face is so recognizable from a role that I can't go anywhere, well, at least that also means that I get to pick my own movies that I want to do. I get to say, hey, I want to work with Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino and Christopher Nolan. So that has a good side of it too. I think that one of the best things I've ever heard about fame and talent is this. Talent is God-given. Be grateful. Fame is man-given. Be thankful. So if I were to be someone that is famous to some people, or to a lot of people, I would be thankful, because that is something that the public and the audience would give me. For now, I try not to focus on that, because I'm only trying to value the God-given part, which is whatever little talent I've been given. I'm just trying to polish it and lapidate it to turn it into a gem, because anybody who has any kind of talent in anything, it starts off as this rough rock, and you just got to work at it so that it turns into a diamond.
Cool. Okay, Gabriel. So we are very honored and thankful for having you here. Thank you for your cooperation. I hope you enjoyed this experience.
I absolutely did. Thank you.
Our pastor has a few words to say before we say goodbye.
No.
Oh, I just forgot to mention, your cousin, Big John, send greetings.
Yes, send him my love too.
Okay, I will.
Good morning, everybody. Gabriel, I confess I am a little nervous to talk to you, but it's a great pleasure for us listening to you, and also listening to our students, talking to you and making questions about your life. And I am sure this is a great project. And so my question is a little different. Could you leave a little message for our students and another students who wants to study in UBRA schools, especially about studying language and about goals for life? Please. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. I think that the biggest blessings that I've had in my life came from this desire to learn and this aptitude for exploring as much of the world around me as I've been given. I was lucky to where I had this bicultural experience between the United States and Brazil. But it was always very important to me to learn both of those languages to the highest degree that I could. I studied English in school in Brazil, and I studied Portuguese in school in the US because I wanted to be as well versed in both languages as I could. It wasn't enough for me that I could have a conversation. I wanted to be as literate and articulate as possible. And I think schools like UMBRA are exactly the place to do this. You have professionals who are dedicating their lives to furthering your learning. And I think if we don't take advantage of that, then we're not really properly exploring life and growing with what is given to us. So the access to professionals and to programs like this are what make the difference for me on a daily basis, because that is a foundation that you build for yourself. The more you learn, the more you explore, the more you can bring that fully into your life every day. And I think that no matter what career path you decide to take, that kind of learning is immeasurable and can only help you live a more fulfilling and gratifying life to yourself, because that's where it starts. And it's only by being serving to your own path and to yourself and to your own learning and development that you can bring that forward in life to other people and share that with the world.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and blessings in your life also.
Bye-bye, guys. See you next week.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Bye.
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 Oh, Gabriel.
Goodbye.
Bye.